How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tes Vav, Daf 115 of Masechta Chullin. Friends, on Daf 115, we discussed the question of how do we know that Basar Bechalav is Issur achila, and how do we know that Basar Bechalav is Issur hana'ah? That you can't eat it, you can't get any benefit from it. This is be'etzem what we are going to be learning about today. I'm anticipating a pretty smooth going, so let's see. Come join me, have a great time as we smooth our way through Daf Tes Vav, Daf 115 of Masechta Chullin. Friends, we begin on Daf Kuf Yud Daled Amid Beis, about halfway through the Amid. That is as far as we got on Friday, and the truth is also today we're only going to get around, I would even say a little bit less than halfway through Daf Kuf Tes Vav Amid Beis. So friends, here we are on Daf Kuf Yud Dalet Amid Beis, about halfway through the Amid. Amr of Ashi. You see where I am? Amr of Ashi. It's by the Tosfos Dibar Maschil Kederech, a few lines after that. Amr of Ashi says, Rav Ashi B'nayin the Basar Bechalav she'asur ba'achila. How do we know that meat and milk that have been cooked zusammen, that have been cooked together, it is forbidden to eat that dish? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Lo sochal kol to'eva, you can't eat any abominations, and Basar Bechalav is an abomination. Kol shetiavti lecha, anything that I abominated to you, areyu b'bal tochal, you can't eat it. Lo sochal kol to'eva. Again, kol shetiavti lecha, anything that I abominated to you, areyu b'bal tochal, you can't eat it. So if the Torah says, Lo sevashal gdi b'chal evimo, don't cook meat and milk, that means it is abominable. And anything that's abominable, don't eat it. Okay, so you can't eat Basar Bechalav. How do I know? That is also Issur hana'ah. You also can't get benefit from it. Babble, like Babble, and we've seen this before. Kol makom shenemar lo yochal, lo sochal, lo sochlu. Whenever the Torah says things like lo yochal, lo sochal, lo sochlu, right? Don't eat it. Echad Issur achila, ve'echad Issur hana'ah. It's not just in Issur achila, it is also in Issur hana'ah, b'mashma. Ad shifa l'cha kosuv k'derech shepered l'cha b'nevela. Unless the Torah tells you explicitly otherwise, as it does by nevela. Like ger b'nesina v'lovid kochavim b'mechira, where it specifies by nevela, as we're going to see in a second, that you give nevela to a ger toshav, and you can sell it to an ovid kochavim. Let's go weiter. The Tanya is within the Brisa lo sochlu kol nevela. The pasuk says lo sochlu kol nevela. Any animal that has not gone through a proper shechita, right? That is not a kosher animal that has been shechted. Any other animal carcass is nevela. And the pasuk says, Lo sochlu kol nevela. Don't eat nevela. So according to the rule that we just laid out, Lo yochal, Lo sochlu, Lo sochlu, it should be not just Issur ba'achila, but nevela should be Issur hana'ah based on our rule. But the Torah explicitly tells us otherwise. The pasuk continues, La ger asher b'sharecha titnena va'achala. You may, however, give it to a ger toshav. A ger toshav is somebody who is not Jewish, but follows the Shev Mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So you can give it to a ger toshav, and you can sell it to an oved kochavim. So the Torah makes clear that even though it says lo sochlu kol nevela, it then says, but you can get hana'ah from it. Any other instance, however, where there is no explicit permission to get hana'ah, it is by default forbidden. Ein li'ela lager b'nesina. I hope I didn't skip. So all I know is that, right, as the pasuk says, lager asher b'sharecha titnena b'achala or machor l'nochri. So in the context of the ger toshav, the pasuk talks about giving it away, and in the context of an ovid kochavim, the pasuk talks about selling it. Lager b'mechira minayin. How do I know that you can sell it also to a ger toshav, not just to an ovid kuchavim. Talmud Omer, la ger titnena o machor. Right? If you look at the pasuk, you can kind of, depending on how you punctuate the pasuk, you can arrive at different conclusions. So, for example, if we read the pasuk in the following way, lo sochlu konevela la ger shebisharecha titnena v'achala o machor, and then you put the comma after that. So you can read it as saying that to the ger toshav you can give it or sell it, right? Titnena v'achala o machor, give it or sell it. And how do I know that you can give it to an ovid kuchavim? Once again, it depends where you put the punctuation. Talmud Omer, titnena o machor l'nochri. Right, once again, if you read the pasuk, lo soch konevela ger shebisharecha, and then it says titnena v'achala o machor l'nochri, you can either give it to be eaten or sold, and this is for a nochri, for an ovid kuchavim. So nimtza echad ger ve'echad ovid kuchavim, whether we're talking about a ger toshav, whether we're talking about an ovid kuchavim, ben b'mechira, ben b'nesina, divrei Reb Meir. You can either give it or sell it, either to an ovid kuchavim or to a ger toshav. Azoi zokt Reb Meir. That is the opinion of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda Omer, however, Reb Yehuda disagrees. Dvarim kichsavim. We're not playing around with punctuation. We're just reading it at its face value, and that is that lager b'nesina v'lo v'kuchavim b'mechira. You give it to a ger toshav and you sell it to an ovid kuchav. My time with Reb Yehuda says this, because if it is like the Ka'amar Reb Meir, if it's like Reb Meir says that you can either sell or give to either a ger toshav or an ovid kuchavim, so lichtov rachmana, then the Torah should say the following: Lo sochlu kon nevela, don't eat nevela. Lagasha b'sharecha titnena v'achala u'machor. Oh lamali. It should say u'machor l'nochri. Why does it say oh machor l'nochri? Shmamina l'davarim kichsavim. It's to be either or, that you either give it to the ger toshav or you sell it to the nochri, not both. L'davarim kichsavim muda also lager b'nesina v'lev v'kuchavim b'mechira, that you give it to a ger toshav and you sell it to an ovid kuchavim. Reb Meir, Omalach, Reb Meir, however, would respond, Hay o lahaktim nesina neger lemechira dovid kuchavim. Reb Meir says the reason for the o is to set priority. That priority goes to the giving to the ger over the selling to the nochri. However, it does not mean that those are the only kilu. According to Reb Yehuda, it's saying that you have to give it to the ger toshav or sell it to the nochri. Reb Meir says no, you can do either, right? Either give or sell to either the ger toshav or to the nochri. In terms of the o, it's for precedence. Reb Yehuda lahaktim nesina deger lemechir dovid kuchavim lo tzarich. However, Reb Yehuda disagrees and says, I don't need the pasuk, I don't need the o in order to establish precedence. Svarahu, because I can use my noggin. Ata mitzuva ze ata where am I? Svarahu ze ata mitzuva lachyoso v'ze yata mitzuva lachyoso. We have a mitzvah to support a ger toshav, which is not the case by a nochri, as the pasuk says, ger v'toshav v'chei imach. That when it comes to ger toshav, you have to support his living among you, and therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, I know priority from there, and therefore the O is coming to say that it's specifically giving to a ger toshav and selling to a ovid kuchavim. So what do we see from here? What we see from here ultimately in terms of lo savash b'chalev imo is that we learn out that you may not eat it from. The pasuk says lo sochal kol to'eva, and in terms of this hana'ah, since it says lo sochal kol to'eva, lo sochal means not just eating it, but also getting benefit, unless the Torah specifically tells you that you're allowed to get benefit, as it does by nevela. Now, frag the Gemara el me'ata. So if this is the case, that we are learning out the Issur achila and Issur hana'ah from lo sochal kol to'eva, ma'aseh Shabbos litzru. Datiyavti l'chol. Let's say if somebody cooks on Shabbos, so then that should be completely asur. Right? You're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do malacha on Shabbos. So maybe that should be an abomination. And if it's an abomination, you shouldn't be allowed to eat it. And yet, we learned on Daf Tesvav, a solid 100, a full 100 pages ago of Masechta Chullin, that if one cooks on Shabbos on purpose, so they are not, it's forbidden to the cooker, but other people can eat it. But shouldn't we say lo sochal kol nevela, that I'm sorry, lo sochal kol toeva, that you're not allowed to do malach on Shabbos. If you do malach on Shabbos, it's abominable. It should be also for anybody to eat. And for the Gemara, Amrukah, the Pasuk says ki kodesh hi lochem, that Shabbos is kodesh to you. Ki kodesh hi lochem, he kodesh, Shabbos is kodesh, vein ma'aseh kodesh. But anything made on Shabbos is not forbidden, is not kodesh in that same way. And because we have a specific zeres akosov to say that whatever was prepared on Shabbos would be mutter to be eaten. Frag the Gemara, chorish b'shor v'chomer v'chosen pipara v'dash b'litzru datiyavti l'chau nu. Frag the Gemara, v'chorish b'shor v'chomer. Right, this is a pasuk in, I believe this is a pasuk in it was definitely a pasuk in yesterday's parsha, Parshas Kiseitze. That right, lo sachush b'shor v'chomer yachtav, you're not allowed to plow with a ox and a donkey together. The pasuk also says lo sachsum shor b'disho, that as a ox is threshing, you're not allowed to block its mouth. You have to allow it to eat. So I would think that if you did plow with a shor b'chomer yachtav, or did block the mouth of a para, you should be forbidden from eating whatever the result of that work is, whether the seeds that were planted, or that whatever was threshed. I would think that since these, this food was prepared in abominable conditions, it should be usher to eat the resulting product. So let's through the ti'avti l'chu. This is a to'efen, it's abomination. You plowed b'shor b'chomer yachtav, lo sachsum shor b'disho. So hashta u'mashabes dechamira ma'iseh mutarim. Well, look, if when it came to Shabbos, which is right, dechamira, which is very strict, chalei mos yumos, etc. Ma'iseh mutarim, but what you make on Shabbos is mutar. Hani lo kol shekin. Certainly then, when it comes to lo sachsum shor b'disho, lo sachush b'shor b'chomer yachtav, which is a lav, which is obviously very significant. However, there is no chiyuv misa associated with it. So the resulting product would be mutter bano. Mutter b'achila, mutter bano. Kilei zoim litzru datiyavti l'chohu. Well, what about if you plant kilayim in a field? You plant wheat and lentils together or whatever. So that should be usher. Now the halacha is, while you're not allowed to do that, and it's a lav, nonetheless, if you did, even though you're not allowed to do it, the resulting plants would be edible, would be permitted to eat. But we should say that it should be usher to eat. It's an abomination. How could you? Torah says not to plant different seeds together, and you did it. Well, because there's another element of kilayim, which is kilei akarim, planting other products in a vineyard. For example, wheat and barley in a vineyard. So there it says pentikdash pentukadesh, lest you have to burn it. So mechlal to kilei zorim sharu, from the fact that specifically by kilei akarim, kilayim in the vineyard, you have to destroy it. That implies that kilei zraim, however, you don't have to destroy it and you can eat it. Ve'ema, maybe I'll suggest kilei karim asurin bein ba'achila, bein bano, kilei zraim ba'achila asire bano sharu. Maybe when it comes to kilei karim, it's completely off limits. You can't eat it, you can't get benefit, you can't nothing from it. Kilei zraim maybe should be asur ba'achila and mutar bano. Right, so maybe when we're making a distinction between kilei akarim and kilei zorim, that distinction is in terms of hana'ah. Kilei akarim is also bano, kilei zorim is mutar bano, but But kilei akerim should also be also b'achila, just like, or kilei zuraim should be also b'achila, just like kilei akerim. So ishkus l'kilei behema. Well, kilei zuraim is compared, is juxtaposed to kilei behema. Don't mate your animals together. With different types of animals, and also don't plant your field with different species together. Just like by a behema, the result of mating different types of animals together, while you're not allowed to do it, the result is permitted. Well, also when it comes to planting your field with different types of seeds together, even though you're not allowed to do it, the resulting growth will be permitted. And how do we know that by kilei behema the resulting animal will be permitted? From the fact that the pasuk says shor o kesef o ez, from which we learn out, right? And that's talking about korbanos. Right? Do I have the pasuk over here? Probably. The pasuk says, oh, I thought I would be able to find it quicker. Oh, there it is. Shor kesef o ez, an ox, a sheep, a goat, ki yivaled, that will give birth. You got to wait 7 days. You can offer it as a korban. So we learn out from shor o kesef ez, an ox, a sheep, a goat, they can be offered as korbanos, not kilaim. Okay, not some kind of a mating of the different species. So a mating of a different species, kilaim, cannot be offered as a korban, but they can be enjoyed by regular people. Also, as beno litzer, maybe Osav as beno should be osir, that if you shecht a mother and its child on the same day, so you're not allowed to do it, but if you do, you're allowed to eat the animals. Maybe it should be osir, because it's an abomination. Well, from we just read that pasuk shor kesef o ez ki yival beres shivas yom tachas yom hashmini v'alo yiratzeh, that by korbanos you have to wait until the 8th day in order to offer it as a korban. Before then, you're not allowed to offer it as a korban. So we're saying that mechusar zman is an issue when it comes to korbanos, but for regular people, you would still be allowed to eat it. And also, as beno is be'etzem a mechusar zman inyan, a preemptive problem, right? There is nothing wrong with eating the mother. There's nothing wrong with eating the child. However, if you shech the mother, you simply have to wait until the next day in order to shech the child, and you didn't. So it's an issue of you jumped the gun. You shechted the child prematurely. You had to really wait till the next day. So this is an issue of mechusar zman, of shechting an animal too early. You had to wait. It wasn't ready to be shechted. You had to wait till the next day in order to be able to shecht this, since you shechted the mother. And that's an issue that is also for a korban, but it's mutter for regular people. Shiluach hakein litzer. Well, what about shiluach hakein? Rashi says what this means is after sending away the mother bird, even if you send it away properly, but maybe since the Torah says that, right, that when the mother is there with her eggs or offspring, so since the mother at that point is osir, so maybe it should be just even after you send it away, it should remain osir. So lo amr Torah shaleach litakala. Once you send away the mother, it is going to be mutter. Why? Well, because how can we allow a bird to be flown out in the wild that is osir? Now, the next time anybody eats a bird, what if it was that bird that's osir? You can't have that. So therefore, the mother bird, once you send it away, it is out in the wild and it is mutar. Okay, so we just gave all sorts of, right, we had said earlier that the way that we know that Basar Bechalav is Asur B'achila is because it says Lo sochal ko to'eva. Basar Bechalav is a to'eva, it's an abomination, therefore you can't eat it. We tried to bring all sorts of different scenarios that are Asur, that should be considered abominable, that we shouldn't be able to eat them. but we explained why in all of these cases we are nonetheless permitted to eat them. Rish Lakish says, Rish Lakish, Minayin the Basar Bechalav she'asur, how do we know that Basar Bechalav is asur ba'achila, that you're not allowed to eat it? When it comes to the Korban Pesach, it says by Korban Pesach, you're not allowed to eat it raw, not fully cooked, and you can't eat it boiled either. You have to roast it. It says bashal mevushal. What's bashal mevushal? Why does it just say uvashal? What's bashal mevushal? Mevushal. Lo melach to say to you, yesh techa bishul acher shu kazeh, that there's another type of bishul which is asur to eat, just like boiled korban pesach. Ve'ezeh, what is that? Zeh basar bechalav. Basar bechalav is right. Vashal gedi b'chalavimo. Basar bechalav is asur ba'achila, just like the korban pesach that is boiled is asur ba'achila. Rabbi Yochanan, Amalei Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan says to Rish Lakish, Ke'ura zo Shoshana Rebbe. What's wrong with the teaching of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi? Loi teichalenu b'basar b'chalav akasuv medaber. This is a pasuk in Parshas Re'eh, last week's Sedra. It says in the context of blood, don't eat it. Now, we don't need this pasuk to tell us not to eat blood. There's other pasukim that tell us not to eat blood. So, what's it talking about? It's talking about when it says lo sochalenu, it's talking about basar b'chalav. Don't eat basar b'chalav. How do you know it's talking about basar b'chalav? Lo sochalenu, don't eat it. What indication do you have it's talking about basar b'chalav? Maybe it's talking about something else. Let's learn it out from the Yud Gimel Midas that we say in as part of Birkos HaShachar every day. It's part of Korbanis. In there we say, right at the very end of them, that we learn out things in their context. What is the Torah talking about there in Parshas Re'eh? B'shnei minin, two types. What does that mean? The psukim there in Parshas Re'eh are talking about psulei amugdashim. Are talking about if a person sets aside a korban, and that korban gets a mum. So chevra, what do we do in that case? Well, you sell it, right? You can't offer it as a korban, so you sell it. The money that you receive, you'll get a new korban with, you get a new animal with. And in terms of the person who buys that animal that has a mum, he can shecht it and eat it. That's permitted, but he can't get benefit from the wool and things like that. Can't get other benefit from it. So b'shnei minin, it's talking about two types. You have this psulei mukdashim that on the one hand you can eat it, on the other hand you can't benefit from its wool or make it work, etc. So afkan b'shnei minin, here we're also talking about two types, i.e. basar and chalav. Okay. So Rabbi Yochanan asked Rish Lakish, why do you need to learn out the Issur achila of Basar Bechalav from Korban Pesach? Why don't you learn it out like Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, like Rebbe? That it's learned out from this lo sochalenu pasuk. Well, if from there, havamina anemile ba'achila, okay, lo sochalenu, I would think that you're not allowed to eat Basar Bechalav. Avabano, lo, I don't know anything about it, no. Kamaj Malon, therefore says, Rish Lakish, I learned by learning it out from Korban Pesach, just like Korban Pesach is a korban, and if you're going to boil it, which you're not allowed to do, so you won't be allowed to eat it, and you won't be able to get hana'ah from it either, right? It's a korban. It's kodesh. So and since we're learning out from mevushal, the extra mevushal, to teach about basar b'chalav, so just like by Korban Pesach, if you boil it, it'll be asur b'achila and ba'hana'ah. So also, basar b'chalav, if you cook it, it'll be asur b'achila and ba'hana'ah. V'Rebbe ba'hana'ah minoli. How does Rabbi Yehuda Anasi know that basar b'chalav is also asur ba'hana'ah? Nafkalei mi'acha. He learns it out from here. Nemar kan ki am kadosh ato l'Hashem. It says by basar b'chalav l'svashkili b'chalav imo. It says ki am kadosh ato l'Hashem l'kecha l'svashkili b'chalav imo. V'nemalalan v'lo yeh kadesh b'vnei Yisrael. That there can't be a kadesh. A kadesh is a fellow who who I guess a male prostitute. And ma leholon be hanoya avkan bano, just like over there against the kadesh. So it's a male who's involved in homosexual relations. So it said, and that's talking about pleasure, about benefit, hanoah. So just like by lo yeh kadesh b'vnei Yisrael, it's talking about in Issur hana'ah. So also Kiam Kadosh Ata L'Shem Elokecha is talking about there's an Issur hana'ah there as well. Devir Elazar Tana learned the besmenish of Rabbi Elazar lo sochlu kol nevela v'gomer. Again in that same pasuk, that but if we look at that pasuk, it says lo sochlu kol nevela, don't eat nevela lagesh b'sharechet nena b'achala machal l'nachi. Right, this is the pasuk we've been talking about all along today. But if we continue reading that pasuk, it says Ki am kadosh ata l'Hashem Elokecha lo savasha k'di b'chal levimo. Lo savasha k'di b'chal levimo was literally in that same pasuk about nevela. So therefore, we darshan, so they told them, especially for Rabbi Eliezer, lo sochlu kol nevela, when it says don't eat nevela, and we say, okay, but you could sell it to Novi Kuchavim, but then it says lo savasha k'di b'chal levimo. Amutor kishatim karena, if you're going to sell it and you're going to get benefit from it, lo savasha k'di b'chal levimo. Lo savashleno v'tim karena. Don't cook it first. Don't cook basar bechalav and then sell it, because basar bechalav you're not allowed to get hana'ah from it. To Rabbi Shmuel Tana, we're studying this with Rabbi Shmuel. Lo savashu k'di b'chal levimo gimel paimim. It says 3 times in the Torah, of course, lo savashu k'di b'chal levimo, from which we learn out echod l'Issur achila, ve'echod l'Issur hana'ah, ve'echod l'Issur bishul. The 3 instances of lo savashu k'di b'chal levimo teaches us, of course, don't cook it, but also don't eat it, and don't get hana'ah from it. Those are the 3 instances. Chevre, that was Daf Kuf Tes Vav of Masechta Chullin. And Daf Kuf Tes Vav of Masechta Chullin, we primarily dealt with the concept of the Issur achila and the Issur hana'ah of Basar Bechalav. Where is it learned from? We saw Rav Ashi, we learned it from Lo Sochal Kol To'eva. Any abominations may not be eaten. Basar Bechalav is an abomination, since the Torah says don't do it, don't cook it together. And if you do, you are not allowed to eat it. And whenever it says Lo Sochal, it also means not just an Issur achila, but an Issur hana'ah as well. We then explored a little bit of the Lo Sochal Kol To'eva, and we asked about other scenarios that theoretically you should be unable to eat because they should be abominable, and we explained why in each of those cases you were allowed to eat it nonetheless. We saw the shita of Rish Lakish, who learns out the Issur achila and the Issur of hana'ah of Basar Bechalav from Lo sochal mimenu na vashum vushal b'mayim, by korban Pesach. Just like a korban Pesach, if you boil a korban Pesach rather than roast it, you can't eat it, you can't get benefit from it. Same thing applies to Basar Bechalav. Rabbi Yochanan argued, and he quoted the shita of Rebbe, who learns out from an extra pasuk by blood, that we don't eat blood, and it says over there lo sochalenu, don't eat it, and we say that is talking about Basar Bechalav, that you're not allowed to eat Basar Bechalav. Where then do we learn out this hana'ah? We learn it out from, it says Ki am kadosh ata l'Hashem Elokecha, and it says lo siyeh kadosh b'vnei Yisrael. So just like kadosh is talking about hana'ah, so also Basar Bechalav is also hana'ah. And we finally saw the shita of the famous shita, the shita that we already discussed from day 1 of Basar Bechalav, that it says lo savashu k'di b'chal levimo 3 times. One, of course, for the Issur bishul, but also for Issur achila and Issur hana'ah. Friends, that was Daf Kuf Tes Vav, Daf 115 of Masechta Chullin. We have a little bit. We have a lot of work to do tomorrow, but okay. Tomorrow, I imagine we'll probably have a longer daf. But in the meantime, enjoy your Sunday. Have a great day. Cheers.